And we are off. Welcome back, gang. And look who's here. Actually, you wouldn't know who's here because it's a first time guest on the All Dolphins podcast. Noah Strackbein, the one, the only publisher of Pittsburgh Steelers on SI, as well as the host of the All Steelers Talk podcast. All around good guy. You and I go back, what now, 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, at least 4 or 5 years. Couple of indies ago. That's when this thing. And you were still wearing that same hat. So
there you go.
It's the lifetime of the hat. Yes.
And,
yes.
Oh, and because it came up in the comments last week, I believe so. This is an ode to the city of my birth. It's also an ode to all displaced franchises. That's where I wear the hat. Whenever I cross another 1,000 subscribers, I will wear a Dolphins hat for the next episode. When I get to 20,000 subscribers, and let's get that going, gang. Been stuck on 16.2 for a bit now. It's hat, Dolphins hat, and Dolphins jersey, but we got some work to do. Yep.
Yes, that's crazy. Okay, so I'll toss another challenge out here. Okay, and you can accept it or not. I think when you hit 50,000 subscribers, you should have to do an episode without a hat.
Oh, I've done episodes without hats.
You've done episode. I didn't think that. I think I've seen your hair twice in my whole life. I think it was.
Well, you're in.
And both times we were eating dinner. No doubt about it. We were at a good dinner.
Yeah, you're in for a treat. There you go. Right now it's a little unkempt. I need a haircut. And by the way, that's another reason. Sometimes the hair I'm not having a good hair day, as they say. So I'll plop this bad boy on. So
that's how it works. I got challenged to grow a mullet a while ago, and now I'm emotionally attached to it. So I feel you. I'm
sorry, did you say you have a mullet right now?
Oh, yeah. It's back there. I don't know if you can
see it. Okay.
It's getting long. My wife hates it, so we're here. So
well, we're not here to talk about hairstyles and all that. We're here to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And a great coincidence that I'm bringing on the publisher of Pittsburgh Steelers on his side to talk about the Steelers. The matchup. But first, yes, we absolutely have to talk about the trade. Jaylen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and Minka Fitzpatrick. Should touch upon Deshaun Elliott at some point as well. Maybe a little Joey Porter, by the way, who played for the Dolphins for a couple of years, being honored Monday night at Acrisure Stadium. I'm always make fun of the name, sorry. Acrisure Stadium, Heinz Field. As part of halftime festivities, there are two other former players who are being honored, and the Steelers are wearing their color rush uniform, which actually aren't bad compared to their throwbacks, which are absolutely barfalicious.
Barfalicious is the perfect word to use. They were the ugliest jerseys of all time. They should never bring them back ever. That being said, the color rush jerseys, different. Those things they're nice. The block letters are pretty sharp. And on top of that, they win a lot in those jerseys. So bad news for the Dolphins, maybe, but good news for the Steelers, who are looking to add to it. But yeah, Joey Porter, honestly, Joey Porter, I see Joey all the time anymore, and we talk to him pretty consistently, and he does not have many bad things to say about his time anywhere, including the Dolphins. And I think he feels like a member of the Dolphins, maybe more than a member of the Steelers. Whoa. If his kid wasn't playing there. I think that those are his two franchises, if you really look at it. And I think he's got that honor when it's all said and done, now that he's, calmed down and become a dad and, is the guy that is reflective instead of just angry all the time.
Oh, yeah, he was. And then he had a hellacious year for the Dolphins in 2008. It got overshadowed because of the Wildcat that became the fad in 2008. And the Dolphins went from 1-15 to 11-5, won the AFC East. But that Wildcat game itself, by the way, Porter, if memory serves, had 3 or 4 sacks against the Patriots. So You want to get Joey Porter going, ask him about Cam Cameron.
Okay, I actually will. Will. That sounds like a good time.
Speaking of, for lack of a better term, high maintenance personalities, how much are you enjoying the Jaylen Ramsey experience so far?
Much less than I thought I was going to.
I warned you.
You did. Look, I'll be the first one to admit, like, Jalen does not. I've dealt with. I cover the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, so I've dealt with high maintenance, let's say, individuals over the last couple of years. Jalen doesn't come close. Jalen is I'm not going to talk much, and I'm going to avoid the cameras when need be, and that's what it's going to be. But George Pickens was here 8 months ago, and it was a different situation. I'll say on the field, the Jaylen Ramsey experience has been very hit or miss. And he's a name that if he was less expensive, you don't even have the conversation that we're going to have. And you just continue to have him around and you say him and Deshaun Elliott and maybe Kyle Duggar, if you bring him back, are like the trio. Where he's at right now, the cost that he's going to, or how much he's going to cost you in 2026. Like he might be a one and done in Pittsburgh, because it's going to be, unless they make the playoffs and look good on their way to the playoffs and win a playoff game or come close to it, like there's going to be so much change for the Steelers this offseason. And I just think that at 30 years old, making $27 million a year, like that's just, you can't justify it. And he does not put up the performances that you're hoping for that price tag.
Interesting. For those not familiar, I'm not taking a gratuitous shot at Jaylen Ramsey during his time with the Dolphins. Let's just say his body language and his demeanor made it very clear he had no use for the media. There would be times he would talk usually on Friday afternoons and it'd be like, okay, I got 90 seconds. Yeah. So it'd be like 3 questions. Okay, that's it. I'm done. God bless y'all. And then go on your merry way. And it's okay. You don't have to not like talking to the media, but it was a little much. So he started at cornerback, or actually, correct me if I saw him, the cornerback, nickel, a little bit of safety at first, and now it seems he's pretty much been locked in at safety for the past few games.
Yeah, the Steelers are so beat up at safety that they had to move him there full time. They have corners. They have corner depth after they signed Asante Samuel Jr. It was Deshaun Elliott and Juan Thornhill coming in as the starting safeties in the beginning of the season. Deshaun's out for the year with a knee injury, and Juan Thornhill was released just because he was playing so poorly to start the year. Yeah. And yeah, because he was just not good. And it just became a thing where Jalen and Kyle Duggar, who showed up at the trade deadline, have been the most consistent names back there. And the Steelers just said, we need consistency. Like, we can't afford anything else. So he's only played safety for the last four games, just about 4 games. And he's not going to change. He's only going to play safety for the remainder of the season. And he's played well, but again, like, for making as much money as you're making, there's really like no impact to be had in the game. There's no big moments of Jaylen Ramsey anymore. And when he was making them at the beginning of the season, it was like one play is an interception, the next is a touchdown, and there was too much back and forth. Now there's just nothing at all. But he is at safety, and he's going to play safety against the Dolphins.
Okay. And by all accounts, there haven't been any issues with him, and either with teammates or Mike Tomlin, because there was an issue with him and Mike McDaniel, clearly.
No, everything's been pretty good. I've never in my life heard of a player that is currently on the roster and has an issue with Mike Tomlin. So that would be very rare. But no, everything seems pretty good. Jalen seems like, honestly, calm for how chaotic and probably stressful the Steelers season has been for guys like him and TJ Watt and everybody else. I mean, that defense stinks, and they shouldn't stink. They have names that shouldn't stink. And if you're a guy like Jalen, you got to be upset. But he's been pretty good. There's been no big giant issues. He didn't talk last week, so maybe we're reaching a boiling point and that's coming. But for right now, things have been very calm, surprisingly calm for the Steelers.
Just wait. I'm sorry. You made the point, and brings up the very obvious question: is why has the Steelers defense been so whatever?
It's got to be the coaches. It's got to be the coaches. I am not a blame the coaches guy most times. Like, I think that a lot of it comes down to personnel. The Steelers personnel is not bad, and they're not the greatest. The Steelers don't have the best defense in football, but you could take guys like Jaylen Ramsey and Kyle Duggar and Joey Porter Jr. and TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Derek Harmon, Patrick Queen, and put them on 32 teams in the NFL, and they are all going to start on all 32 of those NFL teams. Like, it's not like they're bad teams. Schematically, nothing changes. The Steelers run the same defense every single week, and they never change anything up. Guys throughout the season have made it known that they are being put in the wrong places on defense and that the calls are not benefiting them, but rather hurting them. Once that starts to become a thing, like it's very clear that it's the scheme, it's the coaches, it's the play calling, it's the lack of adjustments. And I don't think that's going to change because it's been the same thing for, 10 years under Mike Tomlin since Dick LeBeau left. And if I'd guess, they're going to run the same defense against the Dolphins. And it's really just, does TJ Watt have a big game? Does James Pierre come up with an interception? If that happens, they look good. If that doesn't happen, they look awful. So it's in my opinion, the coaches.
Well, if they don't stop the run, they're going to get 35 carries from the Dolphins. I can tell you that.
They haven't stopped the run one time this season.
Okay.
Not once.
This big, well, then that's good news for Dolphin fans. You hear that? And if it doesn't materialize, blame that guy over there. This begs a question also. Steelers had Brian Flores on their coaching staff a couple of years ago. Why didn't they just make him the defensive coordinator when he got the offer from the Vikings?
Because Mike Tomlin is the defensive coordinator in Pittsburgh, and he would never give that job up. And that's, that's just as straightforward as it is Mike T has called this defense. Defensive coordinators of the past have made it known that Mike Tomlin calls this defense, and Mike Tomlin wasn't going to give up the defense. And Brian Flores wasn't going to come in here to just be a scapegoat. That's not, he wasn't going to be a puppet. He's looking to get back into an NFL head coaching job. The second he left, it didn't surprise. It still bothers the fan base that they didn't keep him. And the answer constantly is like, there was no chance he was going to stay because he saw that this was Mike's defense and it was always going to be Tomlin's defense. And, he wasn't going to get to prove anything. So Tomlin will tell you he was surprised that Flores left. Anybody who knows how that system is run is not surprised at all that he left.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I'm a guy, wasn't necessarily a fan of how he related to players and others, but Brian Flores on X's and O's, that dude knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And they had a lot of respect in the locker room. But again, it's, he was looking for something more, which is why the Steelers' next defensive coordinator will be another Terrell Austin and not a Brian Flores.
Okay. Since you mentioned, there are so many topics involving the Steelers right now. It's like it's a smorgasbord. You mentioned Mike Tomlin. He has been brought up on the All Dolphins podcast, on the Dolphins Collective, of which I'm a part. If you're not familiar watching this podcast, it's Doug Lee, Do Wrong, T Defense, Taco, Mark Kelly, and myself twice a week. And the idea of the Dolphins jumping all over Mike Tomlin if he became available has been brought up. My understanding is, and I think I may have reached out to you and asked you about this, is there's no way in hell the Steelers are firing Mike Tomlin. It may come to a point where maybe he decides fresh start would be better for anybody else. What's your best guess as to where Mike Tomlin is in 2026?
He's in Pittsburgh. That's my best guess for Mike Tomlin. I think right now it's always changing. If you asked me 3 days ago, it would have been 50-50 shot, but I believed that he was going to beat the Ravens. There was something about you went up to the podium last week and it was just like, oh, this is a humbled Mike Tomlin. This is the first time he's ever been humbled ever. Here's my understanding of the situation. The Steelers have no thoughts of firing him. They do not view, if the Steelers don't lose it or don't win another game this season, that they're going to fire him. They look at it as, we are not going to jump ship on a coach who's been here for 19 years, who's been successful for 19 years because of one bad season. That's not on their agenda. I know everybody brings up like the team option in 2027. They're going to accept that option. And I have a hard time believing that's not going to happen. And he'll go into the end of 2027. It would come down to Tomlin. And last week, when the fire Tomlin chants were there, when everything was going on, there was some speculation within that building that maybe he would choose to move on at the end of the season. I think that goes away if they make the playoffs, depending on how it goes down. I also think that the Dolphins, just to, because I've been talking about Tomlin landing spots constantly, you got competition in a team in the New York Giants, because all respect to Tua and that offense and everything going on. It's hard to deny what's going on in New York and the pieces that are there. And if Tomlin's going to, that's why Tomlin would leave. He would leave for a team that he could go win a Super Bowl with in the next 2 or 3 years. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's Miami. Jaylen Ramsey wouldn't tell you that. Deshaun Elliott wouldn't tell you that.
Although, well, they might tell you if they get a real coach, then they would do it because
maybe.
Deshaun Elliott wasn't knocked the culture at every chance he got. Basically, knocked the culture in Miami. Jaylen Ramsey, without really saying it, was taking shots at McDaniel. That Instagram thing with the rotting orange, and if you associate yourself with, you're not familiar with that?
No, I missed that one. I've seen Deshaun call the Dolphins soft about 100 times, but I never saw the orange.
Oh, I'll have to send it to you. It was Jaylen Ramsey on Instagram. They're not soft right now the way they're playing. They're playing like a more physical brand, and partly, and the question is that the reason that they're having success, or is it the fact that, sorry, Dolphin fans, this is a fact. The last 3 teams they've beaten are 3-10, 3-10, and 3-10. That's a fact. So we will find out a lot more about the Dolphins on Monday night. Okay, the other part of the trade. We're not done with the trade yet. Jonnu Smith, I'm looking at his numbers. 30 catches, 190 yards. Yeah. Woof. Last year had 88 catches, 884 yards. And then last Sunday, for the second time in 4 weeks, big zero burger. Yes. What is that about? Is it purely situational how he's being used? Is he dropping passes? Is he not getting open? What's the deal?
All of the above, I think. All of the above. So at the beginning of the year, the issue with Jonnu was that he was only allowed to run 3-yard straight up the middle vertical seams. Like, that's all it was. It was how quickly can we snap the ball and then throw it to Jonnu in the middle of 3 linebackers. That faded, and they expanded Jonnu's route tree and his usage. And then he started making mistakes, and he was never open. And, Rodgers called him out last week he called a check, and Jonnu ran the wrong play. And that seems to happen quite a bit. So Jonnu's been, the Jaylen Ramsey thing has held it together. He's had his moments, so on and so forth. The Jonnu experiment has been so crazy to me. So it's such a failure for the Steelers. And I like Jonnu. Like, I think Jonnu's a good player that if you put him in the right system, Miami was a great example. Like, he could have some success. He could be a reliable starting tight end in the NFL. But the Steelers brought him in and then immediately just started saying, like, oh, he's wide receiver too. He's an oversized athlete. That's what Jonnu Smith is.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah, but he doesn't play like it. He doesn't run outside vertical routes. He works in the middle of the field and is great at finding holes in the zone sometimes, but sometimes he just sits there and lets himself get covered. It just doesn't. There's been nothing about Jonnu's game so far in Pittsburgh that has shown me like playmaker at all. To be really honest with you, he shouldn't even be on the field. And again, I think he's talented, but the Steelers have 2 tight ends that are significantly better than him, and it doesn't make it. That one, if it wasn't for a 5th round pick, the Dolphins would have won that trade by 1.5 miles. I guess you could call a 5th round pick still a win, but like all the Dolphins did for the Steelers in that one is give them a tight end that takes up time for their other tight ends and cost them an extra $12 million. That's all it was.
And there's somebody I know very well who wears a blue hat with a very cool logo who said repeatedly, Jonnu Smith's a solid tight end, but he was the beneficiary of the Dolphin passing game having no downfield element for the most part in 2024, which really jacked up his number. And he wanted a new contract. And when the Dolphins saw that and were like, yeah, it's not, it was almost like it's not you. It was the circumstances in the system that got you those numbers. And he's not doing anything. He wasn't doing anything last year that Greg Dulcich wouldn't have been able to do in his spot, who was a reject from the New York Giants. So, and then Minka, because I wrote this week and I wrote last week as well, from the Dolphins standpoint, to me, that trade's a big win. First of all, because they needed to get rid of the Jaylen Ramsey headache. Jonnu, they didn't want to trade him, but he wanted more money than they were willing to pay him. So they had to, and then to get Minka Fitzpatrick back in that deal. Whoa. And the dude's been playing really, really good ball lately.
Yeah. So, the Minka thing to me is so overlooked in Pittsburgh. I don't think Minka comes in here and saves this defense, but I don't think Minka was the problem. You know, to be really honest with you, and I'll get kind of conspiracy theory here. I think that the Steelers traded him because Minka was speaking out and saying, like, you know, there are issues on this team. Guys are privileged in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. And the moment that started happening, the moment fingers started getting pointed at Minka, and that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, all information is leaked for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it always works.
Yep.
And it kind of felt like as soon as Minka started calling out the culture in Pittsburgh, that's when fingers started getting pointed at Minka, and you're like, I don't know if that one's the truth. So look at Minka's always been he's one of the hardest working athletes I've ever met. You know, he's not the greatest interview, but he's a nice guy for the most part. Easy.
Sorry, did you say he's not the greatest interview? Man, are you being polite?
Man, he's awful.
Being polite.
Yeah, but guys are awful. Like, guys, I think that's the biggest thing in the NFL is that, like, people are like, oh, I'm like, guys, all of your favorite players are the worst interviews ever. Like, they're all, so unless they play quarterback, like, unless they're Tua, they're just not fun at all. Tua's, from what I've seen, Tua's tough. Tua's not my favorite press conference to watch.
Actually, no. Tua has in fact this year Tua will say things that will make you go, okay. And a lot of those. Oh yeah, a lot of those this year. Minka will not say anything that is even remotely could cause anybody to pause and go, whoa, what was that? And he was asked Tuesday. He did a Zoom media session. First question is like, this is a big week for you going back to Pittsburgh. What are your thoughts about the Steelers? And it's like, yeah, it's a big week because we have to win the game. And he wanted no part of it. And when he finally spoke, the trade was consummated early July 1st or something like that.
Yeah.
Training camp starts. Of course, the media, we request Minka Fitzpatrick on a daily basis. Took maybe a week before he wanted
that new contract.
Correct. And then he addressed us, and immediately, I think he began with a statement saying, I don't want to talk about Steelers. I don't want to talk about the trade. And it was like, and his body language, and I'm no psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever the profession would be in this case, body expert language, but it looked like he was not a happy camper about having been traded. But I guess now maybe he's warming up to the idea, but he will not say anything, remotely controversial ever.
No, he doesn't he's never done any of that. I will say Minka used to be, when Minka first showed up from Miami, he was just so excited to be away from Miami, who at the time, different team than today. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was bad. But he didn't like crowds. So cool, funny Minka story. His like first couple of weeks there, I would go over to him and he had an extra locker next to his in the corner. And we didn't want to bring a scrum over, but I wanted to interview him. So he'd be like, yeah, hide in the locker. And he'd hide in his locker and ask him questions. And then he was good. Over time, it became more like I'm a star and I could say less, but he was good at first. He was good. But in terms of who won that trade, the Steelers won that trade. Or the Dolphins won that trade. Yeah. With ease, the Dolphins won that trade. And at the time, it looked like the Steelers just ran away. This was another huge Omar win. And it is. They would take Minka in a heartbeat because Minka and Deshaun was a good group, and Minka and Jalen is just a group that's going to be here, or Jalen and Deshaun are just a group that's going to be here and never get to play together because Deshaun got hurt, and then Jalen's probably going to go, and Jonnu's going to be gone. Jonnu might already be gone. We might just be. It might be anybody else out there wearing 81 on a week-to-week basis.
And are there cap ramifications if the Steelers move on from either or both of them?
Yes. Jonnu's entire contract got guaranteed, which is just insane to me. I think you could ditch him for like a 6th round pick because he's still only 29 years old. I think some team will take him with low cap numbers. And then Jalen, I think the same way. Jalen's hit is it's significant, but it's not as crazy as you think. I think it's like $16-17 million dead hit, which, that's a lot of money, but compared to $28 million for a guy who's not going to play, I think you'd try to trade him. I don't think you'd release him. But I could see them, taking a 5th round pick or something for
yeah, it's one of
Jaylen
those.
Ramsey.
The trade value is not there and by the way, Jalen's probably going to be asking for another contract renegotiation because that's what Jalen does.
Hey, shout out! You want to go make your money? Go make your money. But
No,
for
I
the
know.
Steelers, terrible.
It's up to the organizations to say, yeah, no thanks. Because the Dolphins were not in the saying no thanks mode for quite a bit.
That's how the Steelers were.
Sorry?
I said that's how the Steelers were this offseason, and it looks terrible.
The Cam Hayward situation to me was like dude, seriously.
Cam, TJ, Jalen, Jonnu. I mean, it was just bad. It was every contract looked terrible, and now none of them, like there's like real conversations. Oh, maybe the Steelers will get rid of TJ Watt. Go ahead. Guys want a pass rusher? TJ Watt. There you go. I will tell you who the best Dolphins move the Steelers have ever made, though, is Deshaun Elliott, who is the best player on that defense, without question.
Really?
Oh, okay. He is. I don't know how I didn't know anything about Deshaun Elliott when he signed in Pittsburgh. Never heard his name before. Was just like completely in the dark with this guy. He's the most fun guy to watch. He is always making plays. He fits so perfectly into the Steelers defense. It's kind of crazy. When healthy, obviously suffered a knee injury this year. That stinks. But he's such a good player on the field. And then, in the light of talking about who's actually good interviews, Deshaun is my favorite ever of all time. Anytime you call him a villain, I'm pretty sure he Googles it and just likes the posts. So
yeah,
he's the best. He's the best.
He was good at Miami too. And actually had a pretty solid season for the Dolphins. He wasn't necessarily great in coverage, but that's not what he does. I mean, he's kind of a thumper. But he was good. I would say the best Steelers-Dolphins transaction from a Steelers standpoint was the 2017 draft when the Dolphins decided Charles Harris would be the answer as a pass rusher and passed on TJ Watt.
That is true. That is the best win the Steelers may have ever had over Miami, to be honest with you. So, I mean, and Dan Marino is still holding the light pretty high in Miami, which, shout out to Kenny Pickett, that is the reason the Steelers drafted Kenny, so that they didn't have another Dan Marino. If you'd never heard that story. Because
they missed out on one pit guy, they didn't want to miss out on another pit guy.
I'm pretty sure this is real. I'm going to say it's real because people I've heard it from, reliable, that the Steelers, somebody in that Steelers building who signs the paychecks, decided that he was going to make the pick that year because he wasn't going to miss on another pick quarterback. And Kenny got selected. And now Kenny baby hands, dude, out in Vegas.
I know it might start actually this Sunday if Geno Smith's shoulder injury is significant enough. I mean, who cares about the Raiders? No offense. such a bad team. So with all the issues with the Steelers that we've talked about, you're making them sound like a 4-9 or a 4-9 team or 3-10 team. They're leading the AFC North. Granted, the division is really, really crappy this year because Baltimore has not looked right all year. Even Lamar is back now. The game Sunday, take off your Steelers hat for a second. Isaiah Likely, that's a catch, is it not?
Oh, I said it as soon as it happened. That's a catch. I said there's no Steelers hat. The Steelers did not look good in that game. I said it as soon as the fourth quarter started that they were going to lose. And anybody who thinks that the Steelers are 6-7 and they look good is crazy because Joe Burrow just came back a week ago. Lamar Jackson's been beat up all season. This is the easiest route to the AFC North ever, and the Steelers might still blow it. No, they're 3-5 in their last 8 games. Like, they're a terrible football team. They're a terrible football team. And I've said this all week, and you'd be able to answer this better than anybody. I think the only reason I'd pick the Steelers to win this week in Monday night is because Tua can't play in the cold. That's my only speculation.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to clarify it for you and for the All Dolphins podcast listeners who if you haven't heard me say this before, that stat about Tua and cold weather, look at the opponents. Focus on the opponents more so than focus on the weather. It's Green Bay, it's Kansas City, it's Buffalo, it's Tennessee in 2021 where they're the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
They were generally they're all good teams, which to me was as much of a factor as the weather was. And I only saw, let's say, two performances where Tua and the weather seemed to be like there seemed to be really an effect. Is that 2021 game against Tennessee was January 2022, but the 2021 season where it was cold and rainy and that ball was fluttering all over the place. And then Cleveland this year where it was really, really, really windy, but it wasn't ridiculously cold. Those were the two games where, to me, was noticeable that the weather was affecting Tua. If it's really cold, if there's not supposed to be a lot of wind.
No, just cold.
The ball's heavier. Yeah, okay. The ball's heavier. It doesn't travel as well, and that's obviously going to hurt a little bit because Tua's, shocker, doesn't have a very good arm. That's going to come into play. The Dolphins are not beating the Steelers with a passing game, regardless if they were playing in South Florida. They're going to beat them if their running game continues to have the same kind of success.
I agree. And that's what it'll come down to. I hope that Mike Tomlin is historically good in prime time on Monday night at home, which I think helps the two at the. Like, I'm still gonna ride that wave. Okay, Tua in 40-degree weather, it just
ride it. It's everybody's riding it. So
it doesn't work. Doesn't make sense. And then at the same time, do you think A-Chain's actually gonna play?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I mean,
Steelers side of things, nobody's acting as if he's going to. Which you would know better than them, obviously.
But unless Mike McDaniel's completely blowing smoke up our what, he said he could have gone back into the Jets game had he been needed. He basically fell on the ball, x-rays, no fracture. There's some tenderness. He might get treatment during the week. Maybe he doesn't practice Thursday when they begin their practice week. But from everything McDaniel is saying, doesn't seem to be major concern about Achan's availability. And here's the thing, Jalen Wright rushed for 110 yards or whatever it was, 109 yards in just about a half of work. The offensive line is humming right now. It's playing really, really well. And who would have ever said that about the Dolphin offensive line? But it's a fact. But obviously, Jalen Wright doesn't have the home run ability that Devon Achan has.
No, definitely not. But I mean, you could put the Steelers have given up 100-yard games to everybody over the last 3 or 4 years. It's not like, and it doesn't get better. I will say the only thing that'll help them is Derek Harmon might be coming back, their first round rookie. Okay. He's a difference maker. That guy's very good. Since he's left, their run defense has somehow gotten significantly worse. If he comes back, hopefully it's a boost for them. But at the same time, I agree with you. Like if they get the run game going, it's over. It's going to be so ugly so fast.
And the other part of it too is the Dolphins have been playing with the lead. I mean, in their 6 wins, they've trailed once, and it was 13-6 against Washington.
All you got to do there is take a lead in the first quarter. The Steelers haven't scored more than 7 points in the first quarter in 63 games. 63 games. That's
a lot of games.
That's a lot of games. That's a lot. You scored 10 points. There's your lead. All you got to do is keep running the football. So that's very doable in Pittsburgh.
That's the formula. Steelers offense. I guess they rediscovered DK Metcalf on Sunday against the Ravens. Running game to me looks whatever.
It depends on the week. Sometimes the running game is really good. I think their running backs are really good. It's gotten stale. They need to figure it out, because they had a jumbo package that was working really well, actually. Then they started running the same plays all the time out of it, which again goes to coaching. But that's, if I'll tell you this, and you'll watch this during the game, Spencer Anderson, their jumbo tackle, number 74, will go in motion to the right, and it'll be a pitch to Jaylen Warren every single time. Like every single time. They ran it 5 times against the Ravens, and I think it averaged a yard, maybe. So the run game it depends on the week. The DK thing is, we'll see, because Baltimore didn't double team them. They didn't move a safety over top to help. They just focused on MVS and Adam Thielen. And if the Dolphins are going to do the same thing, DK is a good wide receiver. If the Dolphins are going to say Adam Thielen and MVS combined for 1 pass for like 7 yards, then DK is not going to do anything. So I don't know, but it wouldn't even matter, because you want to know who's going to get the football more in this game. He might get 10, 15 targets in this game is Jonnu Smith, because Mike Tomlin loves a petty football game, loves it. And that's
funny.
He might not be good, but it's going to happen. Like, it's 100% going to happen. He'll be out there for the coin toss too. guaranteed.
That's nice. I love that. Any buyer's remorse about trading George Pickens, who was a complete monumental pain in the, to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, and pulled one of those games where, I don't feel like running today.
That was a good example of who George was in Pittsburgh. No, I talked to people like days before the Thanksgiving game and just like getting a feel of like where they were on this, and because at that point the offense was so bad, and the message is still clear. Like, it had nothing to do with George as a player. It had everything to do with who George is as a person, as a professional. And they weren't. The explanation Pittsburgh would give you is that even if they brought in Jaylen Ramsey, you know what I mean, who has like an attitude in the NFL, he's still a professional. Like, he shows up to work, he works his butt off. You know what I mean? George wasn't that guy. That's not who George was. So George caused issues and then wouldn't show up for practice. And to them, it's like, we'll take the issues, but as long as everybody's working, we'll take DK fist fighting a corner, if he's going out there on punt to do everything he possibly can as a gunner in the last play of the game. Like, that's what they're looking for. So no buyer's remorse, from the fan base, from those who see George as the professional. A lot of buyer's remorse for those who see George as the player, because they're angry. But a lot of people don't understand that George wasn't going for more than a third round pick. So, yeah. No.
Okay. Last topic before I let you go, and certainly appreciate the time. Aaron Rodgers, how would you describe his season? Is this going to be a one and done for him? Could he be back in 2027, 26? Sorry.
I think that question varies every single week, depending on the outcome. I think Aaron Rodgers is a lunatic if he chooses to come back to Pittsburgh. He's just a lunatic. That's it. End period. That's the end of the answer. No, if he chose to come back to Pittsburgh, he'd be crazy. Like, he's getting beat up. His offensive line's not that good. He doesn't have the strongest passing game. The offensive coordinator isn't great. There's questions about the head coach. Like, no, nobody wants him to come back, fan base wise. And I don't know if Aaron doesn't give me vibes that he's considering coming back. How would I describe it? I don't know, dude. It's back and forth as an ayahuasca trip. That's what I'd say it is. It's just, one week it look an ayahuasca trip. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, okay.
I was like, have you been that in the dark? You been that in the darkness retreat for this long that you've been missing out? No, I some weeks it's good. Some moments it's good. You get like vintage discount double check Aaron Rodgers. He's dipping under tackles and that kind of stuff, and it looks great. And then there's moments where he's throwing 2 interceptions a game. So it's super back and forth. It is not the consistency that they were hoping for. That being said, Russ was awful. Russell Wilson was awful. Justin Fields was not good. So it's not like the options were better. And that's why they didn't make a trade at the trade deadline, is because they fully understand they have to hit on a quarterback, and they're gonna sit around and keep all their draft picks until then, because Aaron did not show them anything crazier. But we'll see. I think again, second conspiracy theory here, I have the thought that Aaron's gonna be a little upset that Phillip Rivers overtook him as the oldest quarterback in the NFL, and might have a little juice left in the tank to prove that he's better. So we'll see.
What kind of market would they be for him, though, if he doesn't go back to Pittsburgh?
I don't know if there is one. I don't know but I don't know if Pittsburgh would want him back. I think that they have. I wouldn't be surprised if they took a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, and they have a guy in Will Howard who they don't love. He's a 6th round pick. They don't have expectations for him, but they also understand, like, at some point this carousel's got to end. At some point, you just have to try and figure out a rookie quarterback. So my guess is they're going to draft one within the first 3 rounds. That person will compete with Mason Rudolph and Will Howard, and that will be the starting quarterback. And I don't think they've said that they would welcome Aaron back. I think that'll change by the end of the season.
Why are you not mentioning Skylar Thompson in the quarterback battle?
Because first off, Skylar Thompson, absolute stud. Okay. That guy looked unbelievable in the preseason. He was hands down their best quarterback. Hasn't practiced since, with a hamstring injury that is clearly healed. That guy's hanging out on the sidelines throwing 60-yard passes, and you're going, oh yeah, dude, beat up. That guy tough legs there. I also think he's still looking for his watch, maybe. I don't know.
For those not familiar, he got robbed when the Steelers were in Ireland.
He did. Which I mean, I thought people ask all the time. They're like, why didn't you dive into that story more? Why did nobody like ask questions or anything like that? It's because he was he's a fourth string quarterback who was on IR in Dublin. I wouldn't be going home at 9 p.m. either. I'd be hanging out, drinking some Guinnesses. And then if a bunch of Irish dudes at the end of the night were like, hey, give me your phone, I'd be like, there you go, pal. There's my phone. So shout out to Skylar Thompson. Bring him back. He almost got rid of Will Howard. So, he's in his place.
Is he on practice squad IR or regular IR?
No. That boy made the roster. That guy made the 53-man roster.
Because Will Howard was injured. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, but Will wasn't injured. Will was good to go at that point, and they used it as an excuse to keep him on IR, but he was fully healthy come the start of the season. Skylar earned his place on that roster. He was a stud. He was a stud.
And they're not releasing him off IR, maybe because they do want to bring him back because they like what I guess, right?
I could see they always bring 4 quarterbacks in for the summer. I would not be shocked if it's Mason, Will, Skylar Thompson, and a rookie. Not at all.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. All righty. Yeah. That's gonna wrap it up. You did say you think the Steelers are gonna win on Monday night, correct?
Yeah. Do you want like a score prediction?
If you want to shoot one out, by all means, you don't have to.
I would say the Steelers win an ugly game, 24-20, somewhere in that ballpark. Does not look good. And I'll say if that's today, I haven't seen practice yet. That could change very quickly. You know what I mean? Because I think a cocky Pittsburgh Steelers team is the worst team in the NFL right now. So things could get bad fast. So, but I'll go 24-20.
Okay. You heard it here first. He is Noah Strackbein. He is the publisher of Pittsburgh Steelers on SI, the host of the All Steelers Talk podcast, just like this bad boy here, which is the All Dolphins podcast. Check out his fine work on the website and on YouTube. Check out the free written content at MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com, wherever you get your audio podcast. If you prefer listening to the podcast as opposed to having to look at this ugly mug over here, it's available wherever you get your podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. That's going to wrap it up. We will be back here on Thursday when the Dolphins begin their week of preparation for that game against the Steelers. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Noah. And we'll catch you guys later.